bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Are going through calling on the global community to rally its support in condemning Russia for this invasion, saying innocent people are dying, that really this is a complete breach of international norms going back for decades, and making comparisons to World War II, saying that we cannot just stand by and watch.
In good times or bad, American presidents come to Congress with a diagnosis that hardly differs over the decades. In their State of the Union speeches, they declare, "The state of our union is strong," or words very much like it. President Joe Biden's fellow Americans, though, have other ideas about the state they're in, and little hope his State of the Union address Tuesday night, can turn anything around. America's strength is being sharply tested from within, and now from afar, as fate overnight made Biden a wartime president in someone else's conflict, leading the West's response to a Russian invasion of Ukraine that makes all the other problems worse. The State of the Union is disunity and division. It's a state of exhaustion from the pandemic. It's about people feeling gouged at the grocery store and at the gas pump. It's so low that some Americans, including prominent ones, are exalting Russian President Vladimir Putin in his attack on a democracy. Next news. President Vladimir Putin dramatically escalated East-West tensions by ordering Russian nuclear forces put on high alert Sunday, while Ukraine's embattled leader agreed to talks with Moscow as Putin's troops and tanks drove deeper into the country, closing in around the capital, citing aggressive statements, in quotes, by NATO and tough financial sanctions. Putin issued a directive to increase the readiness of Russia's nuclear weapons, raising fears that the invasion of Ukraine could lead to nuclear war, whether by design or by mistake. The Russian leader is potentially putting in play forces that, if there's a miscalculation, could make things much, much more dangerous, end quotes, said a senior U.S. defense official, speaking on condition of anonymity to discuss rapidly unfolding military operations. Putin's directive came as Russian forces encountered strong opposition from Ukraine defenders. Moscow has so far failed to win full control of Ukraine's airspace, despite advances across the country. U.S. officials say they believe the invasion has been more difficult and slower than the Kremlin envisioned. Though, that could change as Moscow adapts. Next news. The Justice Department launched one of the largest and most complex criminal investigations in its history, after a mob of Donald Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol over a year ago. Now it's time for a jury to hear some of the government's evidence about the unparalleled attack on American democracy. The first trial for one of the hundreds of Capitol riot prosecutions starts this week, with jury selection scheduled to begin on Monday for the case against Guy Wesley Leffitt. The Texas man is charged with bringing a gun onto Capitol grounds, interfering with police officers guarding the building, and threatening his teenage children if they reported him to authorities. Leffitt's trial could be a bellwether for many other Capitol riot cases. A conviction would give prosecutors more leverage in plea talks with rioters facing the most serious charges. An acquittal may lead others to wait for their own day in court. Next news. 2022 midterm election season opens Tuesday in Texas, where voters will pick their nominees for governor, attorney general, congressional seats, and more. With the next state primaries not coming until May, Texas will be far ahead in offering the first glimpse of whether embracing former President Donald Trump remains a litmus test for Republicans and what messages are sticking for Democrats. Of particular interest are congressional primaries in two districts where the incumbents are threatened. Democratic Representative Henry Cuellar is facing a progressive challenger just weeks after FBI agents raided his home. Republican Representative Van Taylor is seen as vulnerable in his GOP-dominant district for criticizing the January 6th insurrection and voting to certify Trump's loss in the 2020 election. Statewide, Attorney General Ken Paxton is looking to survive a Republican primary challenge while under the cloud of an FBI investigation over corruption allegations. We're going to take a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Machine gun. These are questions young kids are asking their mothers. Their mothers are here on the steps of Lublin City Hall just to tell the world. And I asked, what do you want the world to know? And a 17-year-old girl.
Here goes. The Supreme Court is hearing a case its conservative majority could use to hobble Biden's administration efforts to combat climate change. The administration already is dealing with congressional refusal to enact the climate change proposals in President Joe Biden's Build Back Better plan. Now, the justices in arguments Monday are taking up an appeal from 19 mostly Republican-led states and coal companies over the Environmental Protection Agency's authority to limit carbon dioxide emissions from power plants. The court took on the case even though there is no current EPA plan in place to deal with carbon output from power plants. The development has alarmed environmental groups. They worry that the court could preemptively undermine whatever plan Biden's team develops to address power plant emissions. Biden has pledged to cut greenhouse gas emissions in half by the end of the decade. Next news. Fighting to stay in office, George P. Bush, the last of the Bush family still on the ballot, greeted a small outdoor crowd at an Austin brewery, sounding like most Republicans running in Texas primary Tuesday. He'll secure the border. He'll support police. He didn't mention Donald Trump, but his campaign passed out leaflets showing him with the former president. The man who mocked Bush's father shoved aside the Bushes at the GOP standard bearer and isn't endorsing him for Texas Attorney General. It's a heated race that, if Bush doesn't win, will take America's most enduring political family out of elected office for one of the few times in the last 50 years. In quotes. It's distinguishing myself as opposed to just being known as a Bush, end quote, he said afterward. And that's my challenge. That's on me. Next news. Russian President Vladimir Putin's implied threat to turn the Ukraine war into a broader nuclear conflict presents President Joe Biden with choices rarely contemplated in the atomic age, including whether to raise the alert level of U.S. nuclear forces. This turn of events is all the more remarkable for the fact that less than a year ago, Putin and Biden issued a statement at their Geneva summit that seemed more in keeping with the idea that the threat of nuclear war was a Cold War relic. In quotes. Nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought, they agreed. Putin on Sunday told his top defense and military officials to put nuclear forces in a special regime of combat duty. But it was not immediately clear how that might have changed the status of Russian nuclear forces, if at all. Russia, like the United States, keeps its land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs, I guess, on a high state of readiness at all times. And it's believed that Russian submarine-based nuclear missiles, like America's, are similarly postured. Next news. A senior U.S. intelligence official says Belarus is expected to send troops into Ukraine as soon as Monday to fight alongside Russian forces that invaded Ukraine last week. Belarus has been providing support for Russia's war effort, but so far has not taken a direct part in the conflict. The American official has direct knowledge of current U.S. intelligence assessments and says the decision by Belarus's leader on whether to bring Belarus further into the war depends on talks between Russia and Ukraine happening in the coming days. The official spoke anonymously to discuss the sensitive information. Russian forces have encountered strong resistance from Ukraine defenders, and U.S. officials say that they believe the invasion has been more difficult and slower than the Kremlin envisioned, though that could change as Moscow adapts. We're going to take a short break from the daily English global news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Guacamole.
I don't really know what we're talking about anymore.
Burritos.
Okay.
For bundling made easy, go to geico.com.
South Korea will no longer require people to show proof of vaccination or negative tests to enter any indoor space starting Tuesday, removing a key preventative measure during a fast-developing Omicron surge that's elevating hospitalizations and deaths. The health ministry's announcements on Wednesday came as the country set another one-day record in COVID deaths, with 114, breaking the previous high of 112 deaths, said on Saturday. More than 710 COVID-19 patients were in critical or serious conditions, up from 200 to 300 in mid-February, while nearly half of the country's intensive care units designated for COVID-19 were occupied. Park Hyang, a senior health ministry official, said rescinding the anti-epidemic pass would free more health workers to help monitor nearly 800,000 virus patients with mild or moderate symptoms who have been asked to isolate at home to save hospital space. Next news. Russian President Vladimir Putin put his nuclear forces on increased alert on Sunday in a major escalation of tensions with the West. Russia's conventional military assault on Ukraine entered its fourth day, with fighting in the streets of the country's second largest city, Kharkiv, and troops moving closer to the capital. The United States and European countries said they were upping their deliveries of weapons to Ukraine. Here are the things to know about the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the security crisis in Europe. Here's what it is. Okay. Russia puts nuclear forces on alert, unearthing long-buried fears from the Cold War. Putin ordered Russian nuclear weapons prepared for increased readiness to launch. He said NATO had made aggressive statements toward Russia and cited the stiff economic sanctions imposed on Russia. Next news. From Moscow to Siberia, Russian anti-war activists took to the streets again Sunday to protest Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Despite the arrests of hundreds of protesters each day by police, demonstrators held pickets and marched in city centers chanting, "No to war," as President Vladimir Putin ordered Russian nuclear deterrent to be put on high alert. upping the ante in the Kremlin's standoff with the West and stoking fears of a nuclear war. Quotes, I have 2 sons and I don't want to give them to that bloody monster. War is a tragedy for all of us. Quotes, 48-year-old Dmitry Maltsev, who joined the rally in St. Petersburg, told the Associated Press. Protests against the invasion started Thursday in Russia and have continued daily ever since, even as Russian police have moved swiftly to crack down on the rallies and detain protesters. The Kremlin has sought to downplay the protests, insisting that a much broader share of Russians support the assault on Ukraine. Next news. For the investigators, the human foot, burned, but with some fabric still attached, was the tip-off. Until recently, this squat ruined house was a place where bodies were ripped apart and incinerated, where the remains of some of Mexico's missing multitudes were obliterated. How many disappeared in this cartel extermination site on the outskirts of Nuevo Laredo, miles from the U.S. border? Question mark. After 6 months of work, forensic technicians still don't dare offer an estimate. In a single room, the compacted, burnt human remains and debris were nearly 2 feet deep. Uncounted bone fragments were spread across 75,000 square feet of desert scrubland. Twisted wires, apparently used to tie the victims, lie scattered amid the scrub. Each day, technicians place what they find: bones, buttons, earrings, scraps of clothing, in paper bags, labeled with their contents. Quotes. Zone E, Point 53, Quadrant 1. Bone fragments exposed to fire. End quote. We're going to take a short break from the Daily English News and Millennium TV News 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello, welcome back to Millennium News TV 24 Global News Network. And here's a continuation of the news. Parts of Australia's third most populous city, Brisbane, were underwater Monday after heavy rain brought record flooding to some East Coast areas and killed 7 people. Flooding in Brisbane and its surroundings is the worst since 2011, when the city of 2.6 million people was inundated by what was described as a once-in-a-century event. A 59-year-old man drowned in Brisbane's north on Sunday afternoon after he tried to cross a flooded creek on foot and was pinned against a fence, Queensland State Police said on Monday. Queensland Emergency Services warned life-threatening flash flooding was occurring south of Brisbane, in parts of Gold Coast City. Residents were advised to shelter where they were unless it is unsafe to do so. Access to many areas was cut in multiple places. Queensland Fire and Emergency Services said in an alert. Emergency crews made more than 130 swiftwater rescues in 24 hours, officials said. Next news. While hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians flee their country, some Ukrainian men and women are returning home from across Europe to help defend their homeland in the face of Russia's invasion. Poland's border guard said Sunday that some 22,000 people have crossed into Ukraine since Thursday, when Russia invaded the country. At the checkpoint in Medyka in southeastern Poland, many stood in a line early Sunday to cross into Ukraine. Excuse me. We have to defend our homeland. Who else, if not for us, end quotes. Said a mustachioed man in front of a group of some 20 Ukrainian truck drivers walking to the checkpoint to enter Ukraine. He came from across Europe to return to Ukraine. Another man in the group said, quotes, "The Russians should be afraid. We are not afraid." Members of the group declined to give their names, or gave only their first names, citing the security and the security of their families. Next news. Excuse me. New Zealand is ending a requirement that incoming travelers isolate themselves as it continues to remove coronavirus border protections in the face of a growing domestic outbreak. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern on Monday said the requirement that vaccinated travelers isolate for a week after arriving would end on Wednesday. Initially, the changes will apply only to returning New Zealanders, as tourists are not allowed to visit. Travelers will still need to test negative for the virus before leaving and after arriving. In quotes, "I know this will be welcome news to the members of our team overseas, eager to travel home to see loved ones as soon as possible," end quotes, Arden said. "We can't wait to see you." The changes were welcomed by the tourism industry, although leaders wanted more certainty over when tourists could return. International tourism used to account for about 20% of New Zealand's foreign income, but has evaporated since the pandemic began. Next news. Japan this week will ease tough coronavirus border controls that have been criticized as xenophobic and damaging to the economy. The new rules, however, provide only a slight improvement. 5,000 new entrants per day instead of the current 3,500, and nowhere near the estimated 64,000 a day that were entering for long-term visits before the pandemic. The 5,000 daily arrivals also includes Japanese nationals returning to the country, which means hundreds of thousands of foreigners will struggle to enter. An estimated 500,000 foreign students, teachers, workers accredited as technical interns and business travelers have been locked out and waiting to get in for nearly 2 years. Under the policy that takes effect Tuesday, it would take several more months of patience before everyone can get in. In quotes. "It's still better than nothing," said Jami Kwok, who has missed nearly all of her first year of postgraduate classes in atmospheric science at Hokkaido University. This has been the daily global news update of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please log in to get the latest news. All our social networking sites have it: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Millennium News 24. All together now. Our YouTube channel is News Channel M24. Viewers, now both on network broadcasting Android and iOS devices. Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV. Also, smart TV platforms. Please enjoy our entertainment and latest news and views. Our Millennium TV apps, Millennium TV USA, also on Android. Millennium News Google. www.millenniumnews24.com. Stay with Millennium News 24/7, please. Thank you. My name is Todd David Goldfinger. Please pray for our friends, our brothers and sisters out there. Love you, thank you, and peace.